Hi, welcome to a series of podcasts from Swiss Watch on the people, philosophies, and interesting thoughts that shape the world of watches. My name is Anandhi Gopinath, and today on the couch we have Sharmila Ravindran, a lawyer and a collector who will talk about the idea of women in the collecting scene. She's got an interesting collection and some truly interesting perspectives, and I'm so eager for everyone to hear about what it's like for a woman today to collect with intention, intellect, and extremely good taste. Hi, Sharmila.
Hello.
Sharmila, can we start with what watch are you wearing today?
I am wearing the Panerai Lumino Due in 33 which is one of my favorite watches actually. Yeah.
How did you come to acquire a Panerai?
So it's an interesting story. So my husband decided one morning that he wanted to go into Panerai. And I basically told him, look, there's nothing in Panerai for a woman. Nothing would interest me there because you have a perception that as far as Panerai is concerned, it's large, it's masculine, it's heavy, and it's 45 and nothing smaller than that. Well, I walk in and I fell in love with the Lumino Due, which is 38 It's a beautiful watch. And this is basically the first large watch I have. Everything prior to this was smaller than that, 28 pretty much smaller dials. And it's been on my wrist since, and I love it. It's one of my favorite watches to wear. Yeah.
So, would you say that the Panerai sort of marked the start of you being able to embrace slightly larger case sizes?
Absolutely. It is very interesting that you say that because I think the block was in my mind because I have small wrists and I've always imagined that larger watches will not sit comfortably on my wrist. So I never even tried. But because we made that chance visit, and the essays were amazing at Panerai. So we just basically put one on and it sat so beautifully. And I thought, oh my God, yes. And since then, I have been embracing larger dials.
So, do you think that size is a limitation to what women want to wear and what women want to collect? Incidentally, I am wearing a very large, very handsome Breitling today, and I'm completely unaffected by size. I own a 45 millimeter Panerai and I wear it very happily. But I do realize that a lot of women may not share that. Do you think it's something that stands in their way?
Yeah, to a certain extent, it's not so much the dial. I realize the lug to lug as well makes a huge difference because the dial may be large, but if it sits properly, the lug to lug, it's an absolute pleasure to wear. So I think as far as women are concerned, we're always told that the smaller dials, the prettier dials with the diamonds and the gold and all those complications on the face of it is what we should go for. But I think if you ask me, I want what my husband wears, but in a smaller dial, pretty much.
Oh, that's fascinating.
Yeah.
Okay, so what does he collect and how did your collecting journey start together? Because I also share watches with my husband, so I think it's wonderful.
Yes.
Plus, they pay for it, which is nice.
Which is nice. I have no objections to that. So we started our journey when we got married. And so I recall we went out for lunch. We were at one of the shopping malls and I told Taksan, let's just walk into one of the boutiques there. And that was it. That's how we got hooked. Not that we immediately purchased. I think that's a mistake. We went back, we researched, we went down the rabbit hole, the YouTube rabbit hole, and we started looking at different watches and the history and the heritage and where they come from. And we fell in love with a couple of brands. So what we then did over the weekends, the following weekends and years, we'd just walk into the boutiques, the galleries, and try and understand, speak to the essays and understand more about the brands and, the mechanisms and the movements. And so that's how it started for us.
How do you see your approach to collecting as unique or different from Taksan's?
I like very quirky dials. I think Taksan's a lot more conservative, if I may say. I like I like the Mr. Jones kind of watches. So you're looking at the micro brands and things like that. So that's quite fun. I don't wear them to work. Sometimes I do, depending on my day. But I do like quirky, underrepresented brands as well. So that's where I feel, I'm very different from him.
I'm presuming you like the Oris with the Kermit and Oris with Miss
I
Piggy.
love Oris. I absolutely love Oris. Just looking at one in the boutique earlier.
Yeah.
So I love the story of Oris, right? And I like that they have maintained their independence through everything, and so that is a brand I will always support. Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. When you look at your watch collection now, tell me about particular timepieces that have marked very significant moments. To those.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
So, interestingly, before I started the proper watch journey, my first watch was a Rado. I believe I can't remember, but it was like it's a 26 Jubilee dome.
Right. Okay.
Quartz, because I didn't know any better, right? So, it's a quartz watch. With my first bonus, as a first year lawyer, I decided to go and buy myself a watch. And I wore that for years. And subsequently, I got a Longines Classic. And so also, again, 28 very small quartz watches. And so for me, it's more of a watch is something you acquire. Even then, before I knew any better, it's something you acquire because you have reached certain milestones in your life.
Yeah.
So it's very special to me. Also because I think my grandfather had a beautiful Rolex watch.
Wow.
In the 60s or 50s.
Yeah.
And I used to see him getting dressed for work in the morning, and he'd put on his crisp shirt and his watch, and he'll shine his shoes, and he'll head out. And for me, that was in my mind,
Yeah.
Something to achieve. Yeah.
Oh, that's lovely. Yeah, I love those stories when timekeepers are connected to a story from your past, because that is a sort of like a tie to your history or to an ancestor that is so, so special. And then when you wear it and you look at the watch, only you know that, or you think of that memory. And no, it's actually one of my favorite things about watches. In that way.
Absolutely.
It means something that only you know.
Yes.
Which is great. When you are collecting, do you think of watches as a way to express your personality, or is it about legacy, or just an escape into a different world? How do you approach collecting now?
For me, it's two things that you mentioned. So when I wake up in the morning, it's really the kind of day that I want to have, or I'm going to have, right? So Taksan and I have this ritual before we start the day. We stand in front of where our collection or whatever it is, and then we decide what are we going to wear today. So for me, if I'm wearing a Panerai, for example, I know it's going to be a kind of day that's going to be kick-ass, and I'm going to go out there and go to court, do litigate, whatever, so that I'm setting my mind for a busy day. Of course, if it's a bit more of a laid-back day, I would do something less complicated. So for me, it sets the pace.
Yeah.
And it also is an escape, I must say. I mean, what I do for a living is, well, rather stressful. So I do look for little things that make me happy. And, the watch community, the collecting watches, understanding what is something so different from what I do on a daily basis. And I really enjoy it. I really enjoy taking my mind off work and doing this instead. Yeah.
Yeah, because when you actually go into it, watches have so much going on around it from a technical perspective, from an industry perspective, from a design perspective.
Yes.
So it is, it's not just telling time. And to some people, if it is just that, that's fine too. But there's a whole other world to it that you have access to if it pleases you. And I love that
Absolutely.
democratization of it.
And I think another thing is it reminds me to be mindful as well.
Yeah.
The whole process of how a watch is made and how it works, and having that conversation and doing that research, right? It slows me down.
Yeah.
It slows my pace down, and I then go into this mode where I'm trying to understand something new. So I like that. I like
The
that
scholarship
mindfulness
of it, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. When you get a watch, we're talking about complications. Are you drawn to particular complications? And I ask this because for the longest time, there's been a misperception, as far as I'm concerned, that women only like quartz watches, or women only like diamond-studded watches. I do see a shift, but that's also from the point of view of a journalist.
Yeah.
From a buyer who is fed a lot of the marketing spiel, where do you think we stand?
So yes, I think there's a general perception that, and I've been told this before. Oh, women like quartz watches because it's fuss free. nobody has to wind it for you. You don't have to wind it. It just works. But I think for me and some of my friends, we do like a bit of complication. I mean, life is complicated after all. And like I said, that element of mindfulness, right? Taking that time to wind your watch in the morning. Of course, my husband does mine for me, but well, I'm there. So, which is why recently I've started looking at manual wine watches. I know it's a bit, the power reserve is a little low, but I like that and I prefer that. I have kind of moved towards, if it's an automatic watch, I'd rather not have a date complication if possible. So keep it simple and easy to wear. And I think a lot of my girlfriends agree with me on this. Yeah.
Okay. What is your feeling on diamond watches or watches that are sort of marketed to women specifically?
Well, I mean, they are pretty, and we all like pretty things. I mean, who is going to say no to diamonds, But I think not everything in your collection should be that way. So sometimes it gets a little boring and a bit more, it's very presumptuous that women want diamond watches all the time, or gold, or all this fancy. And women are not interested in movements and mechanisms. It's not true, So I think women are so multifaceted and multi-layered, right? Our watches should be the same.
I agree. Yeah. I agree with you 100%. And sometimes even if you want a complication in your watch, it doesn't mean I want it because I will use it.
Correct.
I don't work in Formula One. I don't really need a chronograph, but it's really what the complication represents. It means that this particular brand is able to do this. It means that, what this complication resonates with me as an owner. And only I need to know, after all. No one else needs to know.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I totally see what you mean. And I do think also, I mean, brands like Beauvais do put together diamonds and complications so beautifully, right?
Yes.
So I feel like there's a larger understanding that rather than sell watches to women, sell watches and let the chips fall where they may. I agree with that. I think a lot of brands end up doing the whole men's watches, women's watches because it's easy to Google.
That's
like
right.
Search categories wise.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's fine. But I think the problem is when they try too hard to make it feminine.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So then you kind of, loses the appeal.
Yep. I agree with you. How do you define value in your watches? Is it craftsmanship? Is it sentiment? I mean, obviously the Rado, for example, is something you will always treasure because it is that start. But how do you define value?
For me, it's the story behind the brand. It's always been the story and the heritage, and also the people factor. So we have met some amazing people at Malaysian galleries and boutiques, right? The essays that work there, the people behind the brand who have come down and spent time with us. And so for me and for my husband, it's really that relationship that we have built with the brand. Little things like that really mean so much. And it takes time, really. It's not that we just walk into a boutique and say, okay, I'm going to get that. It's going in and talking to people and understanding where they are and understanding why a watch is a certain way, and appreciating that and taking it, to the next level. Yeah.
That's lovely. It means a lot to a watch writer when you hear that, because you really feel that, okay, so that means this business that we're so passionate about, or even for Swiss Watch as well, it really means a lot to know that there are people out there that look at it as more than a commodity.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, watches are so much more than that. And it's actually really nice to meet people who say, yes, this is how I feel about it. It's really beyond just a timekeeper. I have my phone for that.
Absolutely. I mean, we have our phones, we have everything else, right? The watch really represents something larger than that.
Yeah. Are there any watches or complications in particular that are on your radar that you're considering that you haven't quite, I really want this, maybe I can do this?
I want a moon face. I still haven't gotten one of those. So, considering, Hopefully,
It's such
soon.
a poetic,
It
such a
is.
poetic complication. I think it gives way to so much creativity.
Yes.
Are you enameling it? How are you creating that moon, the phases of the moon within the dial?
And I think for women as well, because I mean, the moon and the sun and the cycles, right?
Yeah.
It means so much to me because it represents a lot of that. So yeah, I think the next one will be a moon phase most likely.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. If you could pass on, not that I'm saying you should, if you could pass on one of your watches to a young woman starting her career, or perhaps if you were to advise a young woman starting out, what would you tell them? And this is in the context of, while Taksan, I'm sure, would give good advice too. We haven't yet come to the point where, we're completely equal in this particular sense. What would you tell a woman insights to collecting?
Oh, don't listen to anyone. Go and experience it for yourself, and don't be afraid to walk into Swiss Gallery and speak to the essays, and everyone is so friendly. Learn. There are a lot of things I'm still learning, and there are a lot of things, and I will admit I don't know that much as I'd like to about watches. But it's really, for me, the feeling of putting a watch on your wrist, and how it feels on you, how you feel with that watch on you, how confident do you feel. And that, why I say this is because I mean, I am a practicing lawyer, and sometimes I walk into a room full of men, and it is very intimidating. You go into a board meeting, and then I look down at my watch and I think, yeah, I'm all right.
Oh, I love
I can do this. I have a Panerai on my wrist.
Yeah.
And it has started conversations with people I would never have spoken to. Someone will look at you, you're wearing a Panerai, and then there is a connection.
Yeah.
And there's a relationship that forms there just because, of a watch.
Okay.
And so, yeah. So I think for young women, do it, because we're always told we should be wearing jewelry and rings, but nobody talks about watches. And I think watches are an amazing way to start your career, your journey.
Okay. Finally, what has collecting taught you about time? Not the kind measured by a dial, but the kind that we live through.
The interesting thing about that is, and it's a very interesting question, because I feel like these watches will outlast me. And I have thought about it before. I don't have children. We don't have children. But who am I going to give these watches to? I'm going to hand them over to someone so that this legacy can continue, right? So I feel like I'm very sentimental about him. And it is a very emotional conversation to have, because it is so much bigger than us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you're absolutely right there.
And the fact that these watches, even if we pass it on to the next generation or 2 generations down the line, it can always be taken back for repairs. It goes back to where it comes from, like all of us, right?
Yeah.
So
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, very emotional.
That's a lovely way. Thank you, Sharmila. There's a lovely way to end our session. Sharmila, thank you so much for sharing your story and for showing us that collecting is not defined by gender, but it is defined by passion and philosophy. You've been listening to a special podcast presented by Swiss Watch. We look forward to seeing you in our boutiques very soon.